Welcome to Online Seller UK podcast. My name is Prabhat, founder at Online Seller UK, and we're doing a series of podcasts related to Amazon and Amazon advertising for some time. And today I've got Mark from Perpetua with me, and Perpetua is a leading advertising management software helping brands to grow on Amazon. So, Mark, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I introduced a little bit about you, Mark, but I think it's better if you introduce yourself in a better way.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mark. I head up Perpetua's business across Europe, based in London. What we do, you touched on just there a moment ago, Prabhat, but fundamentally we're experts in marketplace advertising and in particular Amazon advertising. We've built an extremely successful software business based on, the early foundations of becoming experts in Amazon PPC optimization, but more recently expanding into fast-growing areas like sponsored brands, sponsored display, and really excitingly, Amazon's DSP. But to summarize it, our area of expertise in the space is in building software to help sellers, agencies, brands, aggregators automate many of the manual tasks that they spend far too much time doing right now, such as campaign creation and bid optimization. And I'm excited to be bringing that expertise more and more to sellers, agencies, brands all across Europe.
Excellent. So the topic we've put out here is Amazon advertising today and tomorrow. So, okay, so in terms of advertising space, what sort of changes have you seen in the last few months within Amazon advertising?
Yeah, it's a question that every few months there's more things to talk about, and I'm really excited to share a couple of the things that I've noticed and have been particularly pertinent to me. I think before I answer the question specifically, it's probably worth zooming out a little further than the last few months. Some stats that some people may or may not know. So advertising is now a $25 billion a year business for Amazon. And over the last 12 months, that's grown a pretty staggering 55.5% year on year. So I think the first thing to talk about just in terms of evolution is the scale. Amazon is already 11% of the entire digital advertising market. And we're expecting that to grow to somewhere in the region of 15% in the next 12 months. So without going into the specifics of advertising formats, let's say one of the biggest changes you've seen is scale. And the advertising on Amazon as a channel has really gone from something that is people were trying and dipping their feet into to a must-have channel for any brands and retailers that are really serious about driving e-commerce sales.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah. So you meant I quite agree with last thing you've said. Before people about going onto Amazon or not, it's like unsure. Now, if they are not there, it's just you lose a channel. And also, I've seen some brands unsure about now, but somehow their product got listed through third-party channels. Now they're trying to look into how to improve that performance there on Amazon. So it's an interesting time for any Amazon sellers and brands to be there. So with the evolution, you've started saying there are certain changes going on, and just before we are having this podcast recording, we are briefly talking about aggregators, right? So how do you think are the aggregators playing any role in the way the software should work? Or I know you may have some relationship with aggregators already. So do you want to touch base a little bit on that?
Yeah, totally. It's a fascinating space, and God, what a change we've seen, and what a vast amount of money we've seen invested into that space in the last 12 months. To answer your question, I think we're really fortunate in that we pretty much partner with all of the largest, not all, but the vast majority of the largest aggregators that have had that kind of injection into cash and cash injection over the last 12 months. And so they're actually really helping us shape our product. We're finding that those companies are great for helping us figure out how do we revolutionize and evolve our own software. How's it affecting the space? I think one thing that's really clear is, like, particularly in things like sponsored products within Amazon, that is becoming an increasingly crowded space. And I think that the aggregators play a part in that, right? Like, they want to speed up execution for these brands that need capital and support. And for example, just a couple of months ago, we released our latest benchmark reports. Quick plug there for people, go check out the benchmark reports on the site. But we, in these benchmark reports, we measure things like CPA, CPCs, CPMs across all different Amazon advertising channels. And something that we saw in Europe was pretty much across the board, we saw quarter on quarter around a 10% spike in CPCs in sponsored products. And in some markets, like I think France and Spain, we were seeing 15 and 16% spikes quarter on quarter, respectively. And I think you can only expect that trend to continue. You know, we're sat here recording this on Black Friday and we're in the busiest period. It's going to be really interesting to see how that trends quarter on quarter. But to summarize and back to the point that the aggregators are having, like, that space is becoming more and more competitive. And I think that's being driven by more and more brands being more quickly pushed into Amazon and being more aggressively pushed into Amazon to try and dominate that space whilst they have a chance to do so. And the trickle-down effect actually is that it's now that space is becoming saturated and increasingly expensive. It's becoming more important for those brands to diversify their strategy across Amazon's product offering, and is again why I think you're seeing fast adoption now into, in particular, sponsored display and DSP, which is of course a topic I'll be covering a bit on at the event in March. So yeah, I think in summary, aggregators are having a massive impact on, of course, brands and the space, but it's trickling down to seeing some really interesting developments in CPCs and growth within Amazon advertising.
Yeah. So you know, you mentioned quite a bit of things which is interesting there in terms of advertisers now needing to go on with try different types of advertising itself, and Amazon themselves, they are pushing a lot of advertisers to go on to display campaigns and things like that as well. So and I understand your tool does help with Amazon DSP. How important, well, first of all, what is it, and should brand consider it, and then how to go about it, and if you could mention, you know, how your tools are going to be helping the brands, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. So first question, what is Amazon's DSP? So DSP is short for demand side platform, and there's lots of elements to this, but a short summary is that it's a platform designed for advertisers that want to buy primarily video and display ads programmatically. Anyone that's not familiar with what programmatic means, it's basically just another word for automated and real time. But the most interesting thing, I think, for a lot of advertisers is it allows people to buy ads, video and display, both on and off Amazon using Amazon's data. Your second question was, you know, should sellers try the DSP? I actually don't think that's a black and white answer. Like, it's not yes, you should try it, or no, you shouldn't. It massively depends on what products are you selling, where are you in advertising maturity. Like, for example, if you've only just started to test out sponsored products and sponsored display, I absolutely would not suggest going straight into the DSP. However, if you're a mature advertiser that is either working with an agency or understanding how Amazon's ecosystem exists, have a wealth of data of what your strongest ASINs are, you know a lot about your audience, and you want to try and reach more similar customers, DSP is an incredible tool to do that. So depends on where you are and what your products are. But when you do have that right fit, absolutely, I would encourage sellers to try the DSP. The main advantage that Amazon's DSP has over other ways of reaching customers is the use of Amazon's first-party data. Basically, buyers buying ads within the DSP can leverage Amazon's incredible wealth of knowledge about its customer, all in a first-party, completely secure way, to target and serve really relevant impressions to really relevant customers at a really relevant stage in their purchase journey. You know, whether that's someone in the early stages of researching a product through to someone who's left Amazon and not bought the product. It's a really effective way of doing that in a way that can reach them far more widely than just on Amazon.com. This is going a little bit, I would say, like I would only consider what I'm about to say if you're in that bucket where you're already either testing the DSP or about to, and you really understand the space. But there's another really interesting big advantage to the DSP, which is Amazon's ability with its integration with something called Amazon Marketing Cloud to stitch together all the touch points on a user's journey to give advertisers, sellers a complete view of what their customers doing across Amazon's touch points. Again, a completely first party, privacy safe way. And to be honest, and just like slightly off topic of Amazon, in one of my previous lives, I was working in the attribution space, which was all about helping people understand, like, what does that cross-channel journey look like and how much money should I give to each marketing channel? This is like the holy grail for marketers. Like, serve an impression on OTT, then they come, look at your product, check out, don't buy, you retarget them on the third-party website, they come back to buy on Amazon, you can see the whole picture together. And that's the true, like, long-term power of the DSP. So long answer to your question. I think hopefully that summarizes what it is, how it works. In many cases, I would suggest testing it out. The final thing you asked is, what are we doing to help customers here? So at the top, I mentioned that we're a software company. Our ambition is to build software to automate as much of DSP management as possible. I won't give too much away on this podcast because a lot of it's, for our clients. But we have already built a software that works with Amazon's DSP, which is our unique offering. There's a lot of work to do, particularly in the campaign creation and optimization, but customers that use Perpetua right now get extremely granular real-time data about what's happening in their Amazon DSP campaign performance, which most can't do because they have to do it through an agency rather than for a software provider. We kind of act as both. So that'll be our play for sure.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. So I think you've given us quite a bit of information here on what's happening, what types of advertising, and also really good information about DSP. And what you mentioned about without needing an agency, we can jump into the software as a brand and work with you directly. And I think that's really attractive for a brand as a proposition. In terms of how we use DSP, that's really good. So in terms of predictions, you would say in the next year or so, do you want to talk about any sort of trends you're seeing in the whole Amazon or retail industry?
Yeah, and like, by no means have I got a crystal ball, so but I'll give you a bit of a sense for how I'm thinking about it. So I think first things first, we should expect another high growth 12 months, right? I mentioned 55% this year. The predictions I'm reading look more like a 30% growth rate, but remember that's on a now $25 billion baseline. So it's a pretty significant growth again. Most exciting for me, I'd say tactically, is obviously what's going to happen in their advertising offerings. For example, I genuinely believe that Amazon now has the potential to redefine TV advertising as we know it. And you can see that they're pushing pretty hard right now to get, for example, Prime Video streaming rights for major sporting events. England were just playing rugby at the weekend. You had to watch it on Amazon Prime Video. They're spending a lot of money in creating original content to attract the TV audience. And if you couple this with what I mentioned earlier, Amazon's closed loop of targeting and attribution across advertising, you've basically got what TV marketers have been dreaming of since the inception of TV, which is access to the right consumer at the right time with a really relevant offering and a way to tell if that's actually working. And like, honestly, I might be over exaggerating this, but I think that that's game changing for marketing, period. I forget Amazon for a second. That's really, really interesting. And the second thing that I particularly am interested in as a Brit, and I'll tell you why it's important as a Brit in a second, is I'm very interested to see where Amazon takes its advertising as it increases its physical footprint here. It kind of feels a little bit like Amazon is using the UK as a test bed for a lot of its retail's offerings, like Amazon Go, Amazon Fresh, even Amazon Salon, which is a very interesting development. But I'm interested to see what that means for consumers and advertisers alike, because as Amazon looks to scale up its kind of brick and mortar footprint, it could well be that in-store digital media becomes added as a go-to list of media channels for any advertiser, just as now Amazon sponsored products is. And I think that we can see some really interesting, exciting developments in those in that area over the next 12 months. So let's see how that pans out. But for me, you can expect, in summary, fast growth again. I think doubling down on things like OTT and ultimately brand/TV advertising dollars, and finally this convergence between the digital and physical world is going to be one to watch.
Okay. That's excellent. And I also hear that there will be some sort of Alexa doing lots of advertising. They already do anyway. So that will be another area that people would want to target. And I'm sure Amazon will build something to target there as well. So, right. Okay. So I think we can conclude. So that's really good conversation, Mark. So if somebody is to find out about Perpetua, want to even get in touch with you, Mark. So where is the best place to get in touch?
Well, of course, firstly, I will be at the event in March, so come find me there. But before then, really simple, just go to www.perpetua, which is perpetua.io, and you can speak to one of our team online there, and we can organize a time to meet with you.
Excellent. So thank you, Mark, for today. And like Mark said, if you want to see Mark and Mark's team, Mark will be there AmaFest UK next year in March. Then you can see how powerful the system is. And until then, I'll speak to you soon, Mark. All the best.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.